Good evening, I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Pauline Verzosa.
And I'm Sean Yao.
The big stories tonight. The palace says the first family is open to a lifestyle check, particularly House Majority Leader Sandro Marcos, who was tagged in an investigative report by PCIJ and called the new pork barrel king.
And Senate President Tito Soto called on those complaining about Senator Bato de la Rosa's absence to go ahead and file an ethics complaint.
And the Hong Kong government and Department of Migrant Workers announced financial aid for the OFWs affected by the city's worst fire in over 6 decades.
Nabasa na po ng Pangulo ang nabanggit na report ng PCIJ. I cannot speak on behalf of Congressman Sandro Marcos. Sabi naman po niya, kung ano man po ang issue sa kanya, siya mismo ang pupunta sa ICI para maimbestigan po siya.
Well, there you have it. The palace remains unfazed by a PCIJ report that called House Majority Leader Sandro Marcos, along with former Speaker Martin Romualdez, the new pork barrel kings.
The PCIJ reported that from 2023 to 2025, Congressman Sandro Marcos received the highest amount of allocable funds for his district in Ilocos Norte.
In addition, Malacanang has appealed to the Senate to ensure the timely passage of the 2026 national budget. Maricel Halili with the report.
A lifestyle check for House Majority Leader Sandro Marcos. For Malacanang, it's not something to worry about. It's even welcome. At least that's according to Palace Press Officer Claire Castro, who said President Bongbong Marcos himself had read a report from the Philippine Center for Investigative Journalism, which showed his son got the most amount of allocable funds from 2023 to 2025. PCIJ had referred to these allocables as the modern pork barrel. But while she couldn't speak for House Majority Leader Sandro, Castro highlighted how he had submitted himself to the Independent Commission for Infrastructure willingly.
Siya po ang nagboluntaryo. Kung ano man po ang issue sa kanya, siya mismo ang pupunta sa ICI para maimbestigan po siya. Bigyan lamang po siya ng date para po magkaroon ng tamang schedule.
But here's one thing Castro wanted prompt action on. The report by the Commission on Audit stating there's still over 14 million pesos in uncollected foreign travel expenses by the Office of the President as of December 2024. Apparently, the OP has been covering other agencies' foreign trips. Today, Castro clarified that more than half of that amount have already been collected.
Collection letters were already issued in April and May 2025. Of the said amount, 7,887,555.64 or 55% were already collected to date. The OP consistently monitors the outstanding bills through monthly aging report and sending of collection demand letters.
The palace also appealed to Senate to hasten the passage of the 2026 national budget. This is in response to Senate Finance Committee Chair Sherwin Gatchalian saying that with all the things they needed to study, next year's budget might not be in time.
Dapat bilisan na pag-aaral. Ayaw po ng Pangulo ng reenacted budget. Alam po natin yan. So hanggat maaari, bilis-bilisan natin, although kahit tapos na yung kapos ang panahon, sana po mas mapabilis natin.
Asked about suspended Congressman Kiko Barzaga, Yuse Castro shot down his claim that he was punished because Marcos has a lot of allies in Congress.
Unang-una po yung mga lewd photos na kanyang pinost. Hindi naman po kasama ang Pangulo nung ito ay kanyang ginawa. Hindi naman kasama ang Pangulo nung ito'y pinost. At yung mga sinasabi niya mga umanong disinformation laban sa AFP, hindi rin po yata kasama ang Pangulo sa kanyang mga umanong disinformation. So sa atin na nakikita rito, ginagamit lamang ang pangalan ni Pangulong Marcos Jr. para ma-justify ang kanyang mga ginagawang disinformation.
And as far as the Pogo investigation is concerned, Castro also reported that per latest info from the Department of Interior and Local Government, Cassandra Ong is still in the Philippines. Ong is one of the personalities wanted for qualified human trafficking due to the raided Pogo operations in Porac, Pampanga. The palace is now appealing for help from the public to capture Ong.
Kung sino man din po sa mga kababayan natin ang makakakita kay Cassandra Ong, ipagbigay alam din po agad sa ating law enforcement agencies para pa magampanan din po ang pagsiserve ng warrant of arrest sa kanya.
For News 5, Maricel Halili, We Are One News.
Well, speaking of the Independent Commission for Infrastructure, it launched its YouTube Livestream channel today. That's where you can watch hearings on the flood control investigation. First to testify publicly today was Laguna 4th District Representative Benjamin Agarao Jr. Agarao was implicated by contractor Curly Discaya in the flood control scandal as one of the lawmakers who allegedly received kickbacks from their projects. Agarao refuted the allegation and denied any affiliation with the Discaya couple. He also said it was his daughter, Jam Agarao, who was the sitting representative from 2022 to 2025. But like other lawmakers, Agarao stressed that it was the DPWH which handled projects in their district.
Pag-uusapan po ng aming pamilya at saka po ng aming mga abogado kung ano po ang mga susunod naming hakbangin. Ayoko pong palampasin ang kalapastangan ng ginawa ni Discaya sa aking pagkatao.
ICI Chair Andres Reyes Jr. then asked Agarao if he was willing to submit his cell phone records to the committee, which the congressman declined.
Hindi po. Kasi ang cellphone ko po dalawa lang po Yung pong bago kong cellphone, sa Viber lang po namin sa partido at saka po sa CA. Ito po lang ang aking cellphone. May mga ibang detalye po ito na hindi ko po pwedeng baka po magalit ang asawa ko. Yeah.
Opo. Kaya ayaw namin ng live streaming, naririnig ng mga tao tungkol sa asawa. But tiyatanong ko lang if you're willing to surrender the cellphone kasi nga po we are investigating.
Meanwhile, the ICI has received more requests to investigate alleged anomalous projects. One is from House Deputy Minority Leader and ACT Teachers Party List Representative Antonio Tino. Tino wants the ICI to look into the 4.44 billion peso Davao and Matina River flood control projects. The said projects are located in Davao City Congressman Paulo Duterte's district. Tino claims that the contractor of the said projects gave substantial donations to Vice President Sara Duterte's campaign. The Dutertes have yet to respond to this allegation, but Congressman Duterte has been invited to testify before the ICI this week.
Tingin natin may mga red flag o may mga posibleng anomalya.
Okay.
That's from 2019 to 2022 involving at least. Tapos may nakita rin tayo ng mga incomplete pa rin kahit 2020 or 2022 pa inaward. Dun sa 80, mahigit kumulang kalahati ay mga congressional insertions. Ibig sabihin wala sa NEP pero naipasok sa GAA. So, kailangan kasama sa investigasyon yung role ng kongresista sa distrito yun. And at that time, that was Representative Colong Duterte.
The Land Transportation Office also wants the ICI to investigate the agency's 946 million peso Central Command Center. The building remains unused due to missing equipment. SunWest Corporation, the construction firm linked to former lawmaker Zaldi Co, was part of the joint venture for the facility.
May mga dapat na cameras na dapat ilagay all over the Philippines. Wala po yung mga nangyaring yan. At saka hindi po siya, sa totoo lang, hindi po siya gumagana.
Right, in other news, the DICT says they have intelligence indicating that an exorbitant amount of money is being laundered through crypto platforms by some flood control contractors. Well, that's according to Undersecretary Aboy Paraiso, the acting Deputy Executive Director of the Cybercrime Investigation and Coordinating Center. He's also the chairman of the ICI's Technical Working Group on Asset Recovery. Paraiso explained to our sister program, StoryCon, this afternoon how this system works.
I think the most popular right now is yung mga USDTs because kailangan lang nyo yung mga cold wallets na tinatawag. We have cryptocurrencies, the usual yung mga Binance, so yung other exchanges po na yan. May cold wallet ka, papasok mo na sa laptop, transfer na. Tapos, you don't even see records of the transactions except for the cold wallets. So, with other cryptocurrencies yan, mahuhuli natin yan, or at least we'll have a record of them. Because may mga systems tayo, may mga technology tayo that can track down yung mga cryptocurrency exchanges.
Paraiso says the Anti-Money Laundering Council, or AMLAC, discovered that one of the contractors converted about 15 million pesos into USDT, which is a stable coin, after the exchange decided to notify AMLAC out of goodwill. The suspicious transaction led the agency to freeze the account. The UN Office on Drugs and Crime reported in 2024 that crypto money launderers in East and Southeast Asia prefer USDT due to its stability, ease, anonymity, and low transaction fees. USDTs also hold value like a dollar, and launderers may move them anonymously. Paraiso does not want to identify who exactly made the crypto transaction and how much money was involved and what exchange was used. But he says authorities are working with other countries to trace suspicious crypto transactions.
Meanwhile, NBI operatives swooped in on condominium units owned by former Ako Bicol Party List Representative Zaldico in BGC Taguig today. The NBI sought to recover documentary evidence of bid rigging in connection to the anomalous flood control projects. Ko, who is still at large, is facing corruption and malversation of public funds charges before the Sandigan Bayan. Yesterday, the Department of Interior and local government said that Ko is believed to be in Portugal. Malacanang today said it welcomes the possibility of providing a reward for his arrest. Meanwhile, Zaldico's co-accused in the Mindoro flood control anomaly were again brought before the Sandigan Bayan today. The 9 DPWH officials who are now in custody were arraigned this time before the 6th Division, which is handling the malversation case against them. All pleaded not guilty again.
All right, let's talk all of this out with our first guest tonight. We are talking to former Congressman Raul Manuel. Raul was Kabataan Party List Representative in the 19th Congress. Good evening, Raul. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Hello, good evening po mga ma'am, sa lahat din ng mga viewers natin.
Grabe naman mga ma'am. But anyways, yes, thank you for joining us at such short notice. We're talking about insertions, budget insertions, kasi nga, I don't know if you heard our top story tonight, the PCIJ reporting that there exists the new pork barrels scheme still in the budget going by the name of allocable funds, and it named Majority Leader Sandro Marcos and former Speaker Martin Romualdez and called them the new pork barrel kings. Now we saw your post alleging that there are insertions in Sandro Marcos's district in the 2024 budget. Talk us through that.
Yes, regarding that, I made my own research on the 2024 budget. I compared the National Expenditure Program, which is the draft from Malacanang, and the final General Appropriations Act for the 2024 budget, which was deliberated when I was still in the House of Representatives. The files are publicly available in the website of the Department of Budget and Management. So when I had extra time, I checked and I confirmed na meron ngang mga insertions dun sa district ng ating presidential son, si Sandro Marcos. And hindi ko lang pa natapos kasi sobrang dami talaga eh. It would really take time, pero it confirms na nangyayari nga yung pag-insert ng mga projects na mismo yung mga kongresista yung nagpo-propose. And given that right now ang term na ginagamit na ng legislators ay allocables, we really fear that for the 2026 budget, nandyan pa rin yung system, inibala yung pagtawag.
Raul, I wonder, did you come up, I was going through the pages that you posted, did you come up with a final figure as far as 2024 is concerned in terms of the budget insertions that you're seeing Sandro Marcos got? Kasi yung tally ng PCIJ was 15.8 billion, but that's over the past 3 years. Did you come up with any figures?
So far, hindi pa po natin siya natatapos since after I finish with the 2024 budget, gusto po nang tingnan pati yung 2023 tsaka yung 2025 kasi yun yung tatlong budget na dumaan sa amin noong 19th Congress. Pero while pending pa rin yan, what we have seen is that it is really possible for members of the House, especially those who are close to the President, to nominate their favored projects para sa mga distrito nila. And this pits the people against each other kasi marami din namang nangangailangan. Pero for example, why can't a hospital or a school in some other district get enough funding while some other districts get much more bloated funding?
Okay, but Raul, no, We've heard time and again that insertions are actually not illegal per se. Trabaho ito ng mga legislators who hold the power of the purse. From what you've seen so far, kahit di mo pa natatapos, tell us what is striking to you and what feels off from what you've seen.
Yes, thank you for that question since we also want the people to understand ano ba talaga yung insertions kasi in the legislative process, it is possible for us to amend the laws or even budget appropriations and include new items na wala dun sa original, lalo kung kailangan siya. The problem with the common notion of insertions ngayon na ito yung mas nakikita ng mga kababayan natin, which is very corruption prone, is that a certain project can be absent in the National Expenditure Program. And even when the House or the Senate have already approved their own versions of the budget, pwedeng wala pa rin yung mga project na yon. But what happens is, during the bicameral conference committee, yung mga nag-uusap are only a few senators and a few members of the House, doon na pinapasok yung mga project na wala naman to begin with sa NEP, sa Senate version, tsaka sa House version. So yun yung napakadelikado because projects inserted through the BICAM cannot be open to debate. Kasi pag binabalik sa amin yung BICAM version ng budget, what we get are already the bulk figures. Hindi kasama din yung attachments ng mga projects na naipasok pala through the BICAM. At later on, pipirmahan na ng presidente. So, insertions done through the BICAM are very dangerous.
Wala din the so-called report from the small committee, which Congressman Toby Tiangco has been asking for, because apparently even members of Congress during the 19th Congress, or in any Congress, don't have visibility into that.
Yes. Even the output of the small committee. Ang nangyari sa 19th Congress, for all of the 3 years na naupo tayo doon as youth representative, we approved the NEP as it is during the second and the third reading because we received from the Office of the President a certification that the budget is an urgent bill, which means we can skip yung 3-day requirement between the second reading or the period of amendments, tsaka yung third reading, which is the final vote. What we do is we conduct the second reading and the third reading on the same day, which means we cannot actually include amendments, we cannot debate on amendments. Ang ina-approve lang namin ay yung NEP. Kaya lahat ng amendments at kasama na doon yung mga insertions as how people understand it, nangyayari na siya sa small committee at sa BICAM. And it is the BICAM that grants approval doon sa mga naipasok. Kaya talaga naging ganito yung mga past budgets natin.
And do you know sino ba yung members ng small committee in the 19th Congress? Because traditionally, itong small committee has been a long-standing congressional practice. And as far as we know, may representatives yan dapat from majority, minority, of course the appropriations chair, vice chair, but no one has been able to confirm with us so far sino ba talaga yung naging members ng small committee in the 19th Congress. Do you know?
Yeah. Noong 19th Congress po, its members, upon approval by a motion in the plenary, 4 lang po sila at ito rin yung nasa records ng House. It would be the appropriations chair, the vice chair, the majority leader, and the minority leader. Kaya ang nangyari is that amendments would have to be submitted to them, and it is up to this small group to discuss which amendments can proceed and which amendments will be rejected. So it is the practice that we have done in the 19th Congress.
Yes. So APRO chair at that time was Zaldico, vice APRO was Stella Kimbo, majority leader was Don Gonzales. Sorry.
Nonoy Libanen?
No. Minority leaders Nonoy Libanen, majority was it Don Gonzales?
Delipe?
Manix Delipe, sorry, Manix Delipe. But I wanted to confirm lang with you because we heard from other people that there may have been other people who sat in on the small committee that were technically not part of it. But I just wanted to confirm that. Thank you.
Raul, speaking of insertions, I understand there are two types, right? Merong individual insertions and institutional insertions or amendments. Between the two, meron bang mas prone to corruption? Should we do away with individual insertions and keep institutional ones? Or there's still an opportunity for corruption there?
It would depend on how the amendments were crafted, whether institutional siya or individual. Because, for example, in the case of the youth or Kabataan Party List, when we introduce amendments to, for example, restore the budget for special education, then kung galing na siya sa isa, then that can be considered as an individual amendment. Kaya ang nagiging problema lang talaga is if hindi transparent, paano nag-come up dun sa amendment. In our case, when we propose amendments, pinapublish din namin siya sa page namin for us to be accountable to our constituents na ito yung pinopropose namin, ito yung nakita naming mga kulang pa in the National Expenditure Program, hoping that our amendments will be carried up to the GAA. The problem is, for some members of the House, with due respect to them, yung individual amendments nila ay dinedirekta lang nila sa kung sino yung may mataas na posisyon sa House. Then they rely on that connection, or if we can call it patronage, they rely on that to get their amendments approved. And that's why I can say individual amendments can be more prone to corruption than institutional amendments. That goes to say, posible pa rin na sa institutional amendments, may makalusot dyan na problematic like increases to agencies that don't deserve more increases. So yeah, that's how so far I appreciate itong mga nangyari.
Raul, going back to that small committee, we've heard repeatedly Congressman Toby Tiangco asking for the small committee report. Would you know kung talaga bang, do you agree with him na mukhang walang small committee report? So these were all done and they were not tracked, recorded in a formal way?
Tingin ko po ay napakahirap nga ma-verify. Example lang, kung meron ngang ilalabas na yun daw yung records ng small committee, it's also difficult to really say na yun yung final output ng small committee. Kasi dahil nga iilan lang sila, tapos yung output din nila ay papasa din nila sa BICAM, which is another not so transparent body. Kaya it was just right for Rep. Yang to demand yung copy ng output ng small committee. But then again, kung ano man yung nilabas, it would also have to be probed further given the very untransparent nature of that group.
When you were in Congress, what did you hear about the so-called contractors? Because ngayon lang din lumalabas that allegedly a lot of House members have are themselves contractors. Is that something that was an open secret maybe in Congress? What did you hear about it?
Yeah, it's an open secret. Unfortunately, our electoral system has been rigged to a point that those who are not genuine representatives of the people, whether district representative man or kahit sa party list, nakakapasok talaga. Yung meron naman ng malaking mga interests, no, whether sa kanilang already existing corporations or yung mga connections na meron sila. Ang unfair lang kasi they use the government position for private interest. Kung umupo sila, edi sana they totally got rid of kung ano man yung kanilang stake sa kanilang mga already existing interests para ma-separate nila yung kanilang public function dun sa kung ano man yung kanilang personal or private na mga buhay. Pero what happens is, hindi nagamit talaga yung government positions. And in fact, ngayon na lumalabas na yung paano yung modus ng SOP or kickback, for them, it's a form of efficiency, though in a bad way. Kasi kesa maghatian pa yung legislator tsaka yung contractor dun sa magiging kickback. For them, it's sufficient kasi iisa na lang yung tatanggap, isang tao or isang pamilya, yung pool ng makukuha, it goes solely to them. Wala na silang paghatian pa. So lalong lumala yung korupsyon at part dyan itong mga contractors.
So I guess the question is, Raul, what should be done there? Actually, tinanong din namin yan kay Kong Erice, and he said, kailangan i-declare talaga ng mga congressman sa SALN nila yung kanilang business interests. But at the same time, we all know, ang lusot naman dyan is you just divest from the business. So, what can be done here?
Yung isang pwede, while I would agree na dapat talaga mag-divest din, pero that can be done after the elections na okay, naupo na, so para malinis na sila, they would have to divest. But I think there also has some action even before the elections, meaning magpataw talaga tayo ng malinaw na rules. Halimbawa po sa party list system, we have long been advocating to really be strict with the guidelines on how to accredit the party lists and their nominees para yung mga hindi naman talaga marginalized, like yan, yung mga contractors na billion-billion na pala yung kinikita, nakakapangurakot pa, I don't think they're marginalized. So, dapat before elections, mapigilan na yung pag-accredit sa kanila para ma-minimize na yung chance or ma-reduce or mawala na yung posibilidad na makapasok pa sila sa Kongreso.
Raul, let's talk about Zaldico. Much has been said. He has said so much as well. Do you believe that the buck ends with him? How was it in the 19th Congress na parang kasi ngayon, no, si Zaldico yung, doon siya nagsusstop eh. Do you feel that or am I wrong to assume na that's kind of how it's playing out?
Ngayon po, tingin ko, hindi lang ito hanggang kay Zaldico. He's not the biggest fish in this whole issue. Kasi ang ginagawa ng operations chair ay nagiging posible dahil ito ay may basbas na kung sino pa yung mga mas mataas sa kanya. I think we have to be honest with that, lalo kung paano din naman talaga gumagana yung budget process. The appropriations chair couldn't have acted kung walang sanction yan. Halimbawa na taasan yung budget ng ganitong department or liitan yung budget ng ganitong department. And yung final budget naman, yung pumipirma din dyan is no other than the President himself. At lalo ngayon na lumilitaw pala yung may largest portion ng allocables, which is now the new version of congressional pork barrel, ay sa kanyang anak pa. So, kung sa totoo lang, I don't think na pipirmahan niya yung budget nang hindi siya aware na doon pala sa first district ng Ilocos Norte mapupunta yung ganun kalaking amount worth of projects.
So this goes all the way to the palace, you think?
This goes all the way to the palace.
Of course, their excuse there is that, well, the president was very unhappy with the 2025 budget, but he had to sign it already kasi malapit na mag-end of the year, and if he didn't sign it, we would have to have a reenacted budget, which is also not ideal. Yeah, what did you think?
Yeah. I can see two scenarios. Yung una, kung ating bubusin talaga yung papel ng presidente, alam niya yung nangyayari and he approved what's happening, which means he is part of the problem. Pero yung mas gentle na lang na option siguro, if we would grant that to the president, is that sobrang kurakot na pala ng mga tao sa paligid niya, ginagamit yung pangalan niya para mag-insert ng mga projects at hindi niya alam at all after 3 years na yun yung nangyayari. Minimum na lang siguro na sabihin na napaka-incompetent ng ganong tipo ng commander-in-chief handling a more than 6 trillion peso budget para mangyari yun lahat without him knowing a bit about the corruption issues.
Well, lack of oversight is one thing, but there's also an allegation na baka complicit daw si President Bongbong Marcos dito. There's that allegation by Congressman Zaldico that he has 100 billion pesos in insertions. Posible ba talaga yun, Raul? You have the executive inserting 100 billion sa BICAM, sa Congress level?
So far yung isa po nating nakita, kasi at first meron ding mga pagdududa kung logical ba in the first place na gagawin ng presidente to insert projects sa BICAM level na. Pero nung chinek nga natin, meron ngang insertions for the office of the president through the BICAM. Ang bulk amount lang nun ay dun pa sa mga projects mga activities related to the Philippines hosting the ASEAN. Pero the bottom line is, ibig sabihin pala, pwede at nagawa siya ng presidente. So if the president can do that for his office, what would stop him from including or inserting yung mga projects para din sa iba pang mga ahensya as long as may basbas niya, given how powerful the president is, na basta okay lang sa kanya ay pwedeng lumusot. So, meaning, again, posible at nagawa siya.
Very fair point. We will leave that there. Thank you so much for your insights tonight. Former Kabataan Party List Representative Raul Manuel.
We're just going to take a quick break, but coming up, where is Senator Bato de la Rosa? Well, his colleagues at the upper chamber claim even they have no idea. That story and more still ahead. Keep it here on One News. Welcome back. You're still watching The Big Story here on One News. Anyone who's bothered by Senator Bato de la Rosa's continued absence in Senate is welcome to file an ethics complaint, says Senate President Tito Soto.
Walang ganong rule sa mga legislators in any of our rules or even in the Constitution. Siguro kung mayroong mga kababayan tayo na gustong tanungin itong ganyan, at saka let's say gustong panagutin ng isang legislator, mag-file sila ng ethics complaint. Yung pinakamagandang remedyo.
Does that
para matalakay na. I doubt if we can pass a rule like that even in the House sa atin sa amin. Kasi it's never been that way. Even in the under Congresses, ganun talaga.
Recall that De La Rosa has been missing from the upper chamber for nearly 3 weeks now, ever since Ombudsman Boying Remulla said the International Criminal Court already has an arrest warrant out for him. Neither the DFA nor the Philippine Center for Transnational Crime has an official copy at this point, and only Remulla has seen the warrant. Senator Ping Lacson told reporters today that he messaged De La Rosa a couple of weeks ago to check in.
Chat group namin, meron kami lahat ng all senators. So, I found time na kumustahin lang siya. Sabi ko, kumusta ka na? Mag-ingat ka lang, gano'n. Ang biro niya na sa akin, sir, i-break ko yung record mo sa pagtatago. Tapos may haha. Ang advice ko sa kanya, kung wala siyang intention na mag-surrender, magtago siya mabuti. Ang advice ko sa law enforcement, hanapin niyo siya mabuti. Trabaho nila yan maghanap
The context of that is that Lacson also went in hiding more than a dozen years ago when he was implicated in the Deser Corbito double murder case. De La Rosa's lawyer, attorney Israelito Torreon, has already told us that the senator plans to quote-unquote make himself unavailable until such time that the government makes clear which modality they will use to legally implement the potential ICC arrest warrant. Because he has been missing, his colleagues have had to pick up the slack. Senator Win Gatchalian, for instance, had to defend the Department of Defense's budget, which was supposed to be De La Rosa's job. Still, Soto confirmed that De La Rosa continues to receive his salary and that his office continues to function.
SP, does that mean kahit 2 to 3 weeks ng absence si Sen Bato, sumisweldo po siya?
Sa Congress ka, mayroong isang buong taon hindi mapasok
Opo.
Wala naman silang ginagawa, wala rin umaamal Diba?
Opo.
O ito, 2 to 3 weeks pa lang.
Pero may sweldo yan, SP? Diretso?
Siyempre.
Okay. So,
Allotted na yun
All right, let's talk about corruption once again. Let me bring in our second guest. We're speaking to Cleve Arguelles, political analyst, and also president and CEO of WR Numero Research. Good evening, Cleve. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening, Regina, Sean, and Pauline. Thank you for having me tonight.
The first number that I wanted to dissect with you is, well, I can't find it right now, but it's majority of Filipinos support the anti-corruption rallies is what you found. Talk us through that.
Yes, our recent survey at WR Numero, we did this in the last week of November, just right before the November 30 protest. And what we've learned is that a majority of Filipinos, around 6 in 10 or 58% to be exact, say that they actually support the November 30 anti-corruption protests. Only 18% said that they do not support the protests, and the rest are quite unsure. That's around 24%. So we clearly see here that despite the low turnout last Sunday, last November 30, that the protests continue to enjoy broad support from Filipinos across the country.
Is there a qualitative aspect to that? The 18%, for instance, who say they do not support the rallies, do they tell you why?
No, because it's a long list of questions that we have to ask, and we are excited actually to share this with the public tomorrow. The other questions that we've asked and its results, including, for example, the who do they think should be made accountable really for the flood control mess? Who did they trust the most to resolve this issue? What institutions, which leaders, for example, and that's going to be publicly released tomorrow.
Can you give us some teasers without giving any spoilers? I'm not sure that's even possible.
Initials na lang.
Yeah.
who do people want to be held accountable? Initials. ZC.
I think I've said I said the way that I describe the current standing of the president is that this is that he is at his weakest in terms of the political capital since he won the 2022 presidency. And even though I think the plan was to use the anti-corruption crusade, anti-corruption campaign in a bid to regain public support when he exposed this issue in his last State of the Nation address, I think this really backfired. I think our numbers, our latest numbers, will show that for most Filipinos, this really is that they find accountability at the desk of President Marcos.
Cleve, I'll just refer to your previous survey so as not to spoil tomorrow's press con. What was striking to me was that the growing number of those undecided, because we used to be polarized between the Marcos versus the Dutertes, but we're seeing that undecided is now like gaining momentum, gaining more numbers. Can you give us some more insight and whether or not that undecided has gone bigger since the backfiring of this whole Pandora's box with flood control?
Yeah, you're right. If the expectation going into this November 2025 survey is that more Filipinos who used to identify, for example, with the Marcos administration or those who say that they're pro Marcos might actually start distancing themselves from the administration, and that's what we're seeing actually in the latest numbers that more Filipinos actually say that they're independent. And interestingly, in the issue of the November 30 protest, we find that across political factions, the strongest, I think, as expected, would be among those who identify as supporters of the opposition. 67% among those who are in the opposition say that they support the protest. If you contrast this to either supporters of the Marcos or the Duterte faction, it's 10 percentage points higher. So for the Marcos faction, around 58% say that they support the November 30 protest. For the Dutertes, it's around 57%. So as expected, you see quite that the those who identify with the opposition feels really strongly about this anti-corruption protest.
And when you say opposition nowadays, we have to be very clear who we are referring to. What are you seeing in terms of the opposition? Are they also, some would say that they kind of are fractured as well. What are you seeing?
Right. Technical, just to be technical first, the way that we phrase it in a survey is that we specifically give the option if they identify as opposition, defined as supporters of Leni Robredo, Risa Ontiveros, Bam Aquino, and other similar leaders. And then as for the other options, if you say that you are Marcos, we give you the option to identify if you are supportive of President Marcos and his allies, and then for the Duterte faction, the vice president and her allies as well. And then we also give Filipinos, those who respond to our surveys, the option to choose independent. So that's the way that we define opposition here, those who broadly identify with the Liberal Party, the Akbayan, and other reformist leaders in that particular coalition.
Well, Cleve, this survey also measured public perception when it comes to the flood control scandal and the investigations of the ICI. Maybe you can give us a preview of some of the sentiments of people and how central is that issue to their anger and their support for anti-corruption protests?
Right. Consistently with how they feel about the protest, that we see that a good majority of Filipinos, right, say that they support the anti-corruption protest. That also translates to what they're feeling about the flood control issue in the first place, that most Filipinos still feel that this is a very worrying development in Philippine politics, and that they find it personally troubling, this particular issue. So I think this is really taking up a lot of mental space for most Filipinos, especially as we see more evidence, as more information are disclosed in the investigations. Regarding the trust in the ICI and other institutions, what we are seeing with the numbers is that the ICI do not necessarily enjoy a broad public support. as one might observe or one might expect. For example, me, I personally expect that it might be that Filipinos might be supportive of the ICI given its independent nature rather. But we find in our latest survey, that that's not necessarily the case. So Filipinos I think, are still looking for other institutions, other leaders maybe, to actually credibly investigate and credibly tackle this particular issue.
That's interesting.
Well,
and
they
I have
only
heard it
opened-
said.
They only opened live streaming today, so up until today,
Yeah.
it was largely a mystery.
But also, I've heard it said that they're unknown, at least in the world of politics, right? I mean, of course, Justice Andres Reyes has been a justice, but he's never been this public before. So you're seeing that the one that Filipinos trust to solve this mess is an institution or a person?
It's actually an institution, and I think what the option what the option at least that's how I read it, is that there is really a demand among the public for an institution that is known to be independent, and what I think they broadly associate with more credible, more effective investigations, right? So they look up to an investigation body to actually tackle this issue. So it might be something about popular perceptions of what institution is supposed to investigate crimes or wrongdoings in public and private sectors in the country. As you have mentioned as well, that it's only today that the ICI really live stream its proceedings. So it might also be a public relations problem, right? If people do not necessarily see what they are doing and are not aware of how the investigations are progressing, then I wouldn't be surprised if they cannot really say that they trust the ICI, for example.
If this was Jeopardy, I would say, is it the ombudsman?
I'm sorry that we're playing this game.
I
Oh
know.
my. Cleo,
For 500.
last chance to give us initials. No, I'm kidding. My last question is: so 58% support the anti-corruption protests, and yet we saw what happened over the weekend. The numbers were quite dismal, so to speak. What did you think happened there? I'm asking you to put on your political analyst hat now.
Yeah, right. I think that since that we're way past that moment, that the shock moment of September, right? We saw that that's the peak of the mobilization, and I think we should acknowledge, of course, that there is a natural cycle to protest. It will go up, it will go down, right? And we are way past at the time when emotions were highest. But also from a public opinion perspective, my observation here is that it might have something to do with the fact that investigations have started. So maybe some of our kababayans are on a wait and see attitude, right? They want to give the investigation an opportunity to take place, right? Before they decide to go back to the streets. But as you can see, there's still a sizable number of support for the protest, right? But they stayed home in the meantime of that Monday.
Okay. We'll leave that there. Thank you so much for talking to us, and we'll, of course, cover your exciting press conference tomorrow. Cleve Arguelles, political analyst and president and CEO of WR Numero Research. Thanks for your time.
And we're pausing for another quick breather, but after that, the DTI, amid backlash from the 500 peso Noche Buena controversy, has opened the National Exporters Week, showcasing the best of Filipino products. We'll have the details when we return. Keep it here.
Welcome back. The Department of Migrant Workers and Hong Kong's Department of Labor and Welfare got together today to discuss compensation for the domestic workers that were affected by the Wong Fu Court fire in the city-state. EMW Secretary Hans Kakdak flew to Hong Kong personally to check on the workers there and met with his counterpart, Secretary Chris Sun. They announced that the family of Marian Pascual Esteban, the lone OFW who perished in the fire, will receive up to 800,000 Hong Kong dollars in compensation, which is equivalent to almost 6 million pesos. Esteban left behind a 10-year-old son in Rizal, for whom the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration, or OWA, has promised scholarship aid. Kakdak hailed the Hong Kong government's assistance throughout this tragedy.
Definitely, the Hong Kong Labor Department helped us with, in terms of reaching out to the foreign employment, the Hong Kong employment agencies in terms of accounting for, at the time, a few days ago, the names of domestic workers whom we needed to mark safe or needed to determine their exact status.
You can rest assured, as I made clear in my opening remarks, the Labor Department will help them to claim the entitlement under the law.
Kakdak also says they're now processing the papers to bring Esteban's remains back home immediately. Meanwhile, the OFWs injured in the fire will receive between 50 to 150,000 Hong Kong dollars in compensation, while other survivors will get $20,000. Rodora Tonyaka, who has been hailed a hero for saving her employee's 3-month-old baby, is now out of the ICU and in stable condition. Per the Hong Kong Labor and Welfare Department, 235 domestic helpers were affected by this fire and at least 10 died, 9 of them Indonesians. This was Hong Kong's deadliest fire in decades, the death toll for which has gone up to 151.
Right now, in other news, it's the first week of December, which means it's also National Exporters Week. Trade Secretary Cristina Roque, who's been under fire this week for her comments on 500 pesos being enough for Noche Buena, was on hand to open the expo at EDSA Shangri-La. The good news, she says, is that despite global headwinds, merchandise exports are up this year. Mobile Journal, Amy Atienza has that story.
The Department of Trade and Industry has officially opened National Exporters Week with the theme of Making Waves, Exporters Driving the Nation Forward. From food, clothing, technology, and even leisure items, the event held in Mandaluyong City showcased the diversity of the Philippine export sector. Trade Secretary Cristina Roque was on hand to deliver the keynote.
Under the leadership of President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr., our numbers reflect this trend. From January to October 2025, our merchandise export has reached 70.43 billion, which is a 13.80% increase from last year despite the global challenges. So maganda po ang ating oportunidad, and our president is really pro-export. He keeps on reminding us that kailangan nyo i-push yung mga industries ng Pilipinas.
Indeed, hopes were high exports could get a boost from the recently announced U.S. tariff exemptions. This comes after President Donald Trump issued an EO exempting products that cannot be produced in large quantities stateside. For the Philippines, this will include coconut and all cocoa products, fruits like mangoes and pineapples, and even frozen tuna fillets. Secretary Roque says they're still negotiating that more products be exempted.
So this is a win for the agricultural industry and for our farmers in the Philippines. But for those that are in the other industries, rest assured, we are still negotiating and we are still fighting for the different industries of the Philippines.
But Roque acknowledges the country also needs to find more trade partners.
We need to export to the world. Huwag natin i-limit yung export natin sa isang bansa lang. Para just in case may mangyari or may aberya, we still have many other countries that we can rely on.
Most agro-exporters I spoke to were happy about getting a tariff exemption from the U.S. But on the ground, they say bureaucracy and red tape remain bigger challenges. Many struggle to comply with permitting rules and regulations that are burdensome and constantly changing.
Actually, right now, what is the problem we have is ngayon some government agencies who are really linked sa mga exporters. Hindi siya yung ganon kasimbles ba? Kasimbles. To the point na the investors, the exporters, konti yung support from the government.
PhilExport President Sergio Luis Ortiz Jr. says the launch of 2 digital platforms this year should help ease the burden on exporters.
Well, against our pessimistic belief before, it looks like it's clearing air now, and I think at least yung target natin $110 billion I think we can meet it. It will help the exporters a lot, no? Because it's a platform which can bring them to the world.
The Exporters Week is being organized by DTI Export Marketing Bureau, Export Development Council, and PhilExport. Kapatid Amy Atienza, we are One News.
And before we say goodbye, we bring you back to the corruption scandal that has gripped the country for months now. For our big picture tonight, we have these cute pet dogs that took part in the 2nd trillion peso march on November 30. They came with tiny but mighty placards, one proudly declaring K9 kontra korap, and another wearing or warning nangangagat ng mga korap. A little humor amid heavy headlines and proof that even man's best friend has had enough.
That's very funny.
It is.
K9 kontra
so many
korap.
dogs nangangagat ng korap.
Ang
witty
talaga ng Pinoys, no? I saw a t-shirt that said, you know, K-pop Demon Hunters, right?
Yes,
it
yes.
said, Korap Demon Hunters.
Did they come in costume?
No, it was just a t-shirt.
A shirt,
yeah. Very, very witty. That's, I guess that's what's
true,
going to see us through this scandal, you know.
And animals also really are affected by floods. In fact, they're
Oh yes,
first
that's
to go.
true. Oo nga. That's a very good point.
All right, and that's it for the big story this Tuesday. Thank you so much for watching.
We are back tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. See you then.
Kapatid, we are One News, all sides, all the time. Have a good night.
Well, hang on tight. Coming up next, we have play-by-play with Andre Felix and Cheska Liton Calao. Hi, guys.
Hi.
For context, our Christmas party is happening today.
Hindi nga ako makatawid. Ang saya-saya doon. May mga para-concert na eh. Inaantay daw si Regina kasi dami nang kumakanta. Saan si Reg? Kakanta daw.
Me?
Pinoy
yes.
rock. Pinoy rock.
Raffle.
So,
yun din, yung raffle.
Of the three of us, nako, I would put me last in the singing,
Si Pauline magaling kumanta yan.
I'm telling you.
Si Pauline ang feeling ko pinakamagaling.
Sino?
Ako yung pinakamakapal, siya siguro yung pinakamagaling. And then, si Andre.
And ako, wala kang maasahan. It's all I can say.
Enjoy na kayo. Kaya na kayo dyan and enjoy. Christmas party. Thank you once again. And Wednesday? Tuesday. So good show on a Tuesday. Thank you to Reg, to Sean, and to Pauline. On our show tonight, we've got results from 9 games in the NBA, plus the aftermath of last night's Gilas Pilipinas win over Guam, which turned out to be Japet Aguilar's final game for the national team.
And a bombshell in the PVL as Cherry Tigo decides to take a break from the league after 5 years.
More on that story in just a bit. A lot of lonely Cherry Tigo fans. I'm Andre Felix.
And I'm Cheska Liton Calao.
And here's tonight's play-by-play.
Ramiro, the show by Mamoy leads. Mr. Moves puts it on. Unbelievable. Gemma on the left side.